And
Mhm.
this idiosyncratic approach that I'm taking is unique to my motivations and my intentions, which are very different from that of what you'll find with other artists.
Mhm.
And I just think that's so rich, when I end up on these panel discussions and get to see what other artists are doing, it's nothing like I would have thought of, or I have no idea where they're coming from. I have to learn fresh, what their approach is. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. That's why I say that I'm excited. You're such an interesting gentleman, and I'm pretty sure that people is gonna be very excited to get to hear
Excellent.
your unique perspective. That's what this is interesting about art, and this happens a little bit different in the field of business or in the field, other fields, because artist is such an
Hmm.
expression of the inside of everyone. So it's so beautiful. Okay, so if you are okay, we can get started. It's just a few questions. It's not very lengthy. I'm not gonna take a lot of time from you, but just the main aspects of your unique art and your inspiration and stuff. Is that okay?
Sure. And it looks like both of you are sitting, so I'll sit as well to,
Okay.
where is my
I
chair? Hold
actually,
on.
yeah, okay, I'm not sitting. Okay. How are you, Joshua? I know Joshua is still not
There we
showing.
go. Sorry.
Yeah, Joshua is not showing. Like Joshua is not showing in the screen yet. I
Yeah,
guess
I'm
it's
not sure what
okay.
that's all about, but that's okay
Yeah.
as long as
Yeah.
he's able to do his work. Um,
Yes. Okay.
so,
Okay.
hi, Joshua.
Hi, Joshua.
I, maybe he
Okay.
can't even wave. Is there any way he can acknowledge? Let me see. Is he in a VR headset or desktop, you think?
In the desktop, I think.
In the
Yes.
desktop, you can move your head side to side and up and down. Yes. If you can hear us, shake your
Ah,
head up and down. Can you do that? Is there a way to do that? Or to wave? Can you wave? Um, oh, yeah. It looks like he's
a little
shaking his head
movement
up
there
and
is
down.
showing.
Good, good, good.
Yes.
So he can hear us. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is
let's get started.
amazing. Okay, for sure. Yes. Thank you so much, Daniel, for being here today with us. Please let us know who you are, what do you get the inspiration from to create this amazing art, and any other introduction that you want to delight us with.
Okay, so my name is Daniel Ambrosi, and I have been very much an avid skier, hiker, and traveler for most of my life, and have had this experience that I don't know if this is true for a lot of other people. I suspect it is, but when I'm hiking in a beautiful place that may be beautiful everywhere, like say Glacier National Park, I could be hiking all day long, and you're in the midst of this absolutely beautiful landscape. But there comes a time every once in a while, not very often, just maybe a handful of times during the course of the day, where suddenly the scene snaps into a moment, a composition, just an experience that is special. And it's like a bell rings when that happens. And it takes my breath away. And I don't know exactly why or how it happens in these particular viewpoints or conditions, lighting, whatnot. But when it happens, it really captures my attention, and I've attempted for years, for decades, to capture that experience using traditional photography in a two-dimensional image in a powerful enough way that I can maybe hopefully share that experience with other people when I come back from my trips. And unfortunately, traditional photography doesn't really make that quite possible. And that frustrated me for a long time. So I experimented over the years. I have a background in architecture first, which is what I studied as an undergraduate and ended up doing for 10 years in the professional world. But I also have a master's degree in 3D graphics. So and I studied some art history in college, so I have, a good background in design and art history and 3D graphics and computer graphics in general. So I had a lot of tools to pull out of my toolbox to try to um, achieve what I was trying to achieve, experimenting incrementally over a course of decades. Um, when suddenly a combination of I had a eureka moment actually right in front of this canyon here on this info wall at the top here, right under where it says Dreamscapes.ai, this orange canyon. Was not the actual picture, but this was the location where I had an experience 10 years ago, almost exactly 10 years ago, that really started my art career in earnest, where I realized that the way to capture this scene was to pull together a number of computational photography techniques into one sort of unique mix that worked and really started off this process and enabled me to create immersive, vibrant, highly detailed, massive photographs or panoramas that gave people the impression that they could step inside the scene. And that really sort of started. At that point, I figured I was onto something. I think there's a way to communicate, perhaps finally, this experience. And I started to get there. But it's been a long process since. And it wasn't until 5 years later, about 5 years ago, that I started introducing artificial intelligence to the mix to really complete this process of somehow pouring into a two-dimensional image the visual, visceral, and cognitive elements of what goes on when you perceive a great landscape composition. And that's really what I set out to do. It appears that I'm having some success achieving that. People commonly say, it feels like I can step right into that scene, and wow, this is nothing like what I thought it was. And it makes them not only see what I saw, but feel what I saw, and it makes them think. So I think a short way to sum that up is I'm trying to make images, two-dimensional images that are beautiful and make people think.
That's amazing.
And make
Thank you so
people
much.
feel and think. My
Thank you so
pleasure.
much. Yes. So that is to say, is it correct to state that it is to produce an immersive experience for the viewer?
Yeah, but it goes beyond immersion. For me, immersion is really about how wide angle in both horizontal and vertical directions your image presents. It also has to do with the dynamic range of the lighting and colors that map more to what we see as humans as opposed to what cameras see. And it also has to do with the fact that healthy eyes see great detail everywhere they look. So that combination of wide angle views, vibrancy, and detail is what I finally, clicked together 10 years ago. And that was able to take my images from yielding a visual experience to also yielding this visceral experience where people had an emotional response and felt something. Yes. But when I'm in those scenes, and a scene is powerful enough to make that happen to me, I inevitably start waxing philosophical and thinking about the nature of reality and the nature of seeing itself and what's real anyway. How would a different species like a butterfly see what I see? What's real? And so I realized that part of the experience of these special places is also having this cognitive effect of thinking about reality. And when DeepDream came along in 2015, I sensed an opportunity to use it in a more subtle way than most people were using, specifically for my goals. I'm a real opportunist when it comes to tools. And it made me realize that I could, initially the idea was I could perhaps dream these giant images in such a way that when people approach them, they realize that what's there is something very different from what they thought they were seeing. And it makes them question what they were seeing. And it, I hope makes them think about how they see and how maybe other species see. Seeing is entirely a creative act. It is not a mere objective recording of the photons out there onto our retina. We process what we see, what we sense through our eyes in our brains. And, what really tipped me off that I was onto something was when I had my first exhibition of giant dreamscapes at the NVIDIA GPU Technology Conference in 2016. They commissioned 3 giant light boxes, 8 by 16 feet, that we put down this concourse. And people would walk by and see what they thought were just very nice panoramic photographs. But those that were curious enough to get close to see up close, you could see what happens. They're like, they suddenly at about 3 feet away, they're like, what the heck am I looking at here? This is crazy. This is what? And they would walk back and try to get back to a point where they can't see the crazy details anymore. And what I learned was that when they approach the scene for the first time, they have to walk to about 3 feet away before they notice that things are very different from what they thought they were. But once they know that the details are there, these crazy details, they have to step back at least twice as far away to not see them anymore. So that tells me that there's a range where they're approaching the work for the first time, where they're seeing what they expect to see, not what's really there. Because again, once they've learned it's there, they can't unsee it until they walk back much further. And that just really tipped me off as, wow, we're really designed to see what we expect to see until we can no longer deny that we're seeing something else. And that really made me realize that I have achieved that cognitive effect, that I'm making people think now about reality, about what they see, about how they see, about what seeing is itself.
That is amazing. I think that this type of expression of art, where the viewer is co-creating in that experience and producing those reflections for themselves, is the type of art that we are looking for to actually reflect in those things that are around us that we still maybe don't know even yet what it is. Speaking about reality, for example, what is reality? So I think that it's amazing how you use artificial intelligence for that purpose. And my next question leads me to ask you, what is that relationship of artificial intelligence in terms of consciousness from your point of view, and where do you think that it's gonna or might lead us?
Yeah, that's a really happy accident for my purposes because, in effect, DeepDream, or at least my customized version of DeepDream, is not sentient, obviously. It's not artificial general intelligence. It's a very specific kind of AI that was designed to do something completely different from what I'm using it for. Remember, DeepDream was a diagnostic tool that Google engineers built to help them understand what their image recognition software was seeing. When they saw the results from the code that they wrote, they saw that it might be something people might enjoy using to, turn their family photos into psychedelic nightmares. And it was a novelty, and everyone had fun with it for a few months, and then it went away. I saw it differently. I saw it as a tool to see my own work in a different way. It's almost like again, I know it's not sentient, but imagine it has a way of seeing the world. that's not true consciousness, but it sees the world in a way that's related to, but different from us. The neural network is built in a way similar, but in a more simplified manner as to how we think we see things. This data that comes in through our eyes and onto our retina is processed through a series of neural networks, and ultimately we construct an image that, again, like I said before, is partially based on what we expect to see. Well, DeepDream's been trained to recognize certain images. It was fed a finite image data set, and the image recognition algorithm is designed to find those things and identify them. The image recognition algorithm was originally designed by Google for their Google Photos group to help consumers categorize their photos automatically and be able to say, oh, that's a dog in a field, or oh, that's Diana in Dan's gallery. If it was trained, it could kind of figure out those things. But by reversing that process and having DeepDream spit out what kind of sense it's making of even random pixels, it is sort of creating a vision that, again, uses the basic fundamental building blocks of what we do, but in a different way. It's related in that it's similar to how, and this is why people see it as psychedelic, it kind of reminds them of the hallucinations that someone may see under psychedelic drugs. It also is similar to the perceptual phenomenon of pareidolia, which we all experience when we look up at the clouds and we see a face in the clouds, or a rabbit, or an animal in the clouds, or the man on the moon. That's something that's built into our brains. Well, that's built into DeepDream's mind as well, but it's different because it's simplified. It's been trained on a different data set, and I think there's that uncanny sort of merging of human vision approaches with machine learning that create this different way of seeing the world. So we can relate to it, but it's different. And that is, again, what I hope triggers people to question what they're seeing. Does that answer your question?
For sure. Thank you so much. And
sure.
What is your perspective on the trend that artificial intelligence might take in terms of art? What do you foresee, going new in this era of technology revolution? What do you see that the art is going to be maybe depending on in terms of artificial intelligence?
Right now in the current state, I say, and you look at the sort of spectrum of works that AI artists are doing and the approaches they're taking, I think it's fair to say that spectrum at two extremes has, on the one hand, art that's completely generated by the AI. And on the other extreme, you have art that is very much a human-AI hybrid of the human and AI working very closely together. I position myself very much on that end. But on the other end, there's been some amazing work done. Ahmad El-Gamal at Rutgers, has created these creative adversarial networks where he's sort of trained his AI on styles or movements of art in the hope to get the machine to create new art, styles and new art movements, all together. And he's had some real success at that. Now, it has taken human curation to pull out the best parts of that. And when he has exhibited, in fact, he had the first AI art exhibition in a bona fide New York City gallery a few years ago. They chose awesome work, just great work that were sort of new, you know, usually somewhat abstract, art images that were just really stunning. That's not what I'm doing, but that has already been shown to be possible, to have AI being creative in that way. I think we have to put quotes around creative, again, because we're not at the point of machine consciousness and sentience. But it's pretty amazing. It's pretty out there. Now, I am taking like I said, an approach that's clearly on the other end, where I'm starting with source material that's very unique to me. There are some other artists that do that as well, and that they train their AI specifically on stuff that they've created, like sketches or photographs of tulips. People like Anna Ridler and Helena Sarin. They're doing some real interesting blends of human AI art. In my case, it's a computational photography base that I'm applying my AI to. And there's so much possibility in between. So where it goes from here, I think, is we already see the foundations of that, and it will just get more interesting, I think, across the spectrum, both in terms of machine generated and human AI hybrid art.
Thank you so much. That's very interesting. Yes, to see where it's gonna be in a few years. So, speaking about you, what are the projects that you are working on right now, and what's new coming for you?
So one thing that I continue to do, which has been tough during COVID, is I haven't been able to do during COVID, is to go on major photo expeditions and capture new source material. Right now, I have a couple of major expeditions planned for the fall. I'll be in Rhine, Norway, in the Lofoten Islands for 2 weeks in between September and October, and then in the hills of northern Tuscany for almost the same amount of time between October and November. Fingers crossed all that happens. Right now, Norway is still closed. It's very nerve-wracking. I still have 3 months to go, and they have a lot more people to vaccinate. So I hope all that happens. So I'll continue to go on photo expeditions and create new captures and dream them in the approaches that I've done before. But over the course of the evolution of the AI augmented work over the last 5 years, I've gone from full scene single pass dreamscapes to what I call grand scale multi-pass dreamscape details, like you see in these big pictures here around this room. These are details of larger panoramas that have been upscaled in multiple passes at multiple scales with multiple types of dreaming. And I've explored, have you been behind this info wall to see the infinite dreams, where I sort of apply a cubist approach? Behind the Japanese tea garden wall are dream noir scenes, where I do some sort of graphic novel inspired dreaming styles. I keep exploring the graphic possibilities. Like I said, I'm a pure opportunist. I'll use any tools that can help me execute ideas that I have. I've started to create some three-dimensional works, of which this cube in the middle is sort of an example of. I'm working with a gallery that's focused on augmented reality exhibitions that are, all 3D graphics focused representations of my work. I feel like right now I'm sort of at the top of my game. I have a huge tool set, and what I really would like to see my art career sort of transformed to is more commissioned work. So, for example, I won't name names, but there's a prominent Silicon Valley law firm that has approached me, and they're interested in me creating dreamscapes of their office locations, the areas around their offices in 6 places in the world. So I would basically shoot panoramas from rooftops in a variety of places. If I tell you everywhere, then you'll guess who the firm is. But then they're leaving it up to me to create a series of Dreamscape light boxes for their offices of multiple sizes. That is really exciting to me because I could, put together a thematic collection that uses all of these sort of approaches I've taken. You could imagine a double dose or a full scene dreamscape of large scale in their lobby, and then some mid-sized pieces down the hallway of infinite dreams and abstract dreams and other things like that. I'm just itching to get into more focused projects like that, where I've got this repertoire, I've got this toolbox, and I've refined it. I really feel like I'm at the top of my game. So if anyone watching this interview is interested in commission projects unique to their locations, again, my art is very location based. It starts with photography, right? So think about it in those terms. I believe I can produce a body of work and a thematic collection for that client that will delight them.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
delight their audience.
Those are amazing news, Daniel. Congratulations. Hopefully, everything goes as expected and you get growing and growing with this amazing and professional and very artistic work that you do. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate all the insight that you very kindly has shared today with us, especially your insight on the use of artificial intelligence in your own art and the process that you follow. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope my answers weren't too long. I know once I get talking about this stuff, I go on for a while. I'm very passionate about it.
Exactly.
But I really appreciate it. And
yes, this is how it is. This is a work of passion. So this is what people always love to listen to because this is contagious, So your message really comes across due to your passion and to your sharing of all the process. People really want to see artists like you with so much quality and so much insight to share. Thank you so much, Daniel.
My pleasure. Thank you. Feel free to stick around, come back anytime, bring your friends. Sometimes I'll be here. Sometimes other people will be here and, you can talk to them. But